Good morning. In this lecture, we discuss about a functional representation of Hilbert space, or we can say the dual of a Hilbert space, and we will discuss the Rees representation theorem in a Hilbert space. So, consider the set of all bounded linear functionals on a Hilbert space, and these form a vector space by the pointwise operation alpha t plus beta s of x is equal to b alpha tx plus beta of sx. So we denote this vector space by h star, and it is called a dual space or the first conjugate space. So before we discuss the Rees representation theorem, let H be a Hilbert space. Every bounded linear functional on a H can be represented in terms of the inner product on a H, that is fx is equal to be the inner product of x comma z for all x belongs to be H, where z is uniquely determined by f and norm of a z is equal to be norm of a f. So we discuss the proof of this theorem. So the proof of this theorem will be separated in some steps. So in the first step, we will discuss about the existence of such an jet in a Hilbert space H. So first we prove the existence of this jet. So if f is equal to be 0, then R1 and this R2, these equations hold, the R1 and the R2, if z is equal to be 0. If we have a z is equal to be 0. Assume that there is some w which is non-zero such that f of w is non-zero, where w belongs to be the h. So the null space of f, that is nf, which is the collection of all those x belongs to be a Hilbert space H such that f of x is equal to be 0, is a closed linear subspace of H. Hence, the null space and its direct sum with the null space perpendicular is orthogonal complement of a null space is equal to be the H. So let W belongs to be a NF perpendicular such that W is non-zero, and set V is equal to be Fx into W minus f of W into x, where x belongs to be H. Then we have the functional fv, which is equal to be fx into fw minus fw into f of x is equal to be 0. So here we found that fw is equal to be 0, so v belongs to be a null space of AF. Now since w is perpendicular to the null space of AF, so we have the inner product of the v and the w is equal to be 0. So this v, we will substitute the value of this v. So v is equal to be fx into w minus fw into x, comma w. So we'll apply the property of inner product. So here we will apply f. So this becomes fx into the inner product of w and w minus fw into the inner product of x into w, which is equal to be, so w, inner product of a w into comma w can be written as the norm of a w square. So this is f of x into the norm of w square minus fw into the inner product of x comma w. So further, therefore we have f of x is equal to be fw into the inner product of x comma w over the norm of w square. Also, it can be rewritten as fx is equal to be the inner product of a x comma the conjugate of fw over the norm of w square into the w. So then this z can be represented as conjugate of fw over the norm of w square into w. So we have proved the existence of such z. So now we prove in the step number 2 we prove the uniqueness of such z. Suppose that f of x is equal to be the inner product of x comma z1, which is equal to be the inner product of x comma z2. Then we have inner product of x comma z1 minus z2 is equal to be 0 for all x belongs to be h. So take x is equal to be z1 minus z2. Then the inner product of a z1 minus z2 comma z1 minus z2 is equal to be 0, or norm of a z1 minus z2 square is equal to be 0, or we can say that norm of a z1 minus z2 is equal to be 0, hence z1 is equal to be z2. So in the first step we proved the existence of such z, and the second step we have proved the uniqueness of such z. Now we will prove that this norm of a f is equal to be norm of a z. So if f is equal to be 0, then z is equal to be 0, and norm of a f is equal to be norm of a z is equal to be 0. So we get the result. So this is the trivial case. So we will consider that f is a non-zero and z is a non-zero. So consider norm of a z square, which is can be written as the inner product of a z comma z, which is equal to be f of z, which is less than equal to be the norm of a f into the norm of z. Hence the norm of a z is less than equal to be the norm of a f. Also modulus of f of x is equal to be the modulus of a inner product of a x comma z, which is less than equal to be norm of a x into the norm of a z by the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality that we have already proved up. So the norm of a f is less than equal to be norm of a z. So by considering of these two parts, we get that the norm of a f is equal to be norm of a z. So here we have proved the Rees representation theorem, which will be giving up the result for the dual space or the functional of a given Hilbert space out there. So this theorem can also be written as, so let H be a Hilbert space and H star be its first conjugate space, or you can say the dual space of H. Then f belongs to be, then for every f belongs to be h star, there exists a unique z belongs to be h, such that f of x is equal to be the inner product of x comma z for all x belongs to be h, and norm of z is equal to be norm of f. Now we'll discuss some of the examples related to the linear functional. So let here the h is equal to be L2 in the closed interval 0, 1, and D is equal to be the set of all continuous real valued functions on the interval 0, 1, which is a subset of L2 space over the interval 0, 1. Define a linear functional T from this D to this R as Tf is equal to be f of 0. So this operator is unbounded, and we have already proved that if a functional is bounded, then it is continuous, and if it's unbounded, then it is not continuous. So this operator is unbounded, hence not continuous. For take the sequence of the functions f of nx is equal to be 1 minus nx when x lies between 0 to 1 by n and 0 otherwise. So this function norm, if we took the norm of a f of n and we have defined up the norm of a f of n, it converges to be 0, whereas the norm of a tfn is equal to be the modulus of a f of n 0, which is equal to be 1. That is, the norm of a tfn over the norm of a fn is equal to be infinity. So why it is unbounded? And further, the next example. So let H be a Hilbert space, and we take the y belongs to be H, and we define a functional Ty as an inner product of the arbitrary element comma y. So it is easy to see that this functional Ty is a linear, and also it is bounded. To check it out, we have said that the norm of a y can be represented as the modulus of a inner product of a y comma y over the norm of a y, which is less than equal to be the supremum of the modulus of a inner product of x comma y over the norm of a x whenever the x is non equal to 0, which is less than equal to be supremum of a norm of a y into norm of a x over the norm x, which is equal to be norm of a y. Therefore, the norm of a t is equal to be supremum of the modulus of the functional ty of a x over the norm of a x, which is equal to be norm of a y. The Rees representation theorem does not hold for a incomplete inner product space. For example, say that let x is equal to be the space of all scalar sequences, each of which has a finite number of non-zero entries. So let x be the C naught naught. So for x and y belongs to Px, defined by the inner product of x comma y is equal to be the summation of a xj into the yj bar. It is easy to see that the inner product space and the norm where we have it is easy to see that this is the inner product space, and we can define the 2 norm over here as a square root of a inner product of x comma x, which is equal to be the summation of modulus of xj square. Now define a functional f from x to k by f of x is equal to be a summation of xn over n. Now again it is easy to see that f is a linear. So now to check it out, it is a bounded. We use the Holder's inequality, and using a Holder's inequality we can prove up that it is a bounded function. So say that the modulus of f of x square is less than equal to be summation of 1 by n square into the summation of a modulus of xn square, which is less than equal to be c times the norm of a x square. So hence f is a bounded. If f is a bounded, so we can say that f is continuous. So also f belongs to be the x prime has no representative in x. To see this, let y belongs to be x. So as f of x is equal to be the inner product of x comma y. So for all x belongs to be x, and taking the en as a 0, 0, 1 and 0. So this 1 will be at the nth place. We found that the yn is equal to be the inner product of en comma y, which is equal to be f of en, which is equal to be 1 by n, and it should be non-zero for all n greater than equal to be 1, but this is impossible since y belongs to be c naught naught, and this shows that the Rees representation theorem does not hold for x. So now the next lemma we will discuss representing for the equality. So let if inner product of v1 comma w is equal to be the inner product of a v2 comma w for all w in an inner product space x, then v1 is equal to be v2. In particular, inner product of a v1 comma w is equal to be 0. It implies that the v1 is equal to be 0 for all w belongs to be x. So now we'll discuss the proof of this. So for all w we have inner product of a v1 minus v2 comma w can be written as the inner product of a v1 minus v1 comma w minus inner product of a v2 comma w, and already we have the inner product of a v1 comma w is equal to be the inner product of a v2 comma w, so which is equal to be 0, so we can say that is equal to be 0. So for v is equal to be the inner product of a v1 minus v2, for w is equal to be the inner product of w is equal to be v1 comma v1 minus v2, the norm of a v1 minus v2 square, this becomes so we have a w, and this w is equal to be v1 minus v2. So this is the inner product of a v1 minus v2 comma inner product of a v1 minus v2. So this becomes the norm of a v1 minus v2 square. which is equal to be 0. So hence we can say that the V1 minus V2 is equal to be 0 or V1 is equal to be V2. So in particular, the inner product of V1 comma W is equal to be 0 with W is equal to be V1. It implies that the norm of a V1 square is equal to be 0. So V1 is equal to be 0. So the practical use of a bounded linear functionals on a Hilbert space results to a large extent from the simplicity of this representation result that we have discussed. The f of x can be represented as a inner product of x comma z. So furthermore, this R1 that we have already discussed up in the Riesz representation theorem, this R1 we can say about is quite important in the theory of operators on Hilbert spaces. In particular, these refers to the Hilbert adjoint operator, T star of a bounded linear operator T. So now we'll discuss for the sesquilinear form of this Riesz representation theorem. So let x and y be a vector spaces over the same field. Then a sesquilinear form H on x cross y is a mapping from x cross y to k such that for all x, x1, x2 belongs to be x, y1, y and y2 belongs to be y, and all scalars alpha and beta, we have these four properties are being holding up. That is, the h of x1 plus x2 comma y is equal to be h of x1 comma y plus h of x2 comma y, and h of x comma y1 plus y2 is equal to be h of x comma y1 plus h of x comma y2. H of alpha x comma y is equal to be alpha times hxy. H of x comma beta y is equal to be beta bar h of xy. So we can say that here the h is a linear in the first argument and conjugate linear in the second argument. Clear? So based upon this, we have the Riesz representation theorem in a sesquilinear form. So let h1 and h2 be a Hilbert spaces, and h is from h1 cross h2 to k, a bounded sesquilinear form. Then h has a representation hxy is equal to be the sx comma y, where s is a bounded linear operator from h1 to h2, and s is a uniquely determined by h and has a norm of a s is equal to be norm of a h. So now we will discuss the proof of this result. So consider the conjugate of a hxy, and this is a linear in y because of this bar. So keep x fixed. Then by the Riesz representation theorem on functionals, hxy bar into the hxy bar is equal to be the inner product of y comma z, and hence hxy is equal to be inner product of z comma y. So here z belongs to be h2 is unique but depends on a fixed x belongs to be h1. So it follows that with the variable x defines on operator s, we have sx is equal to be a z. So by substituting z is equal to be sx in this equation, we have the given the proof out there. We have the given equation will become up. So first we prove that this s is a linear. So in fact its domain is the vector space h1, and from the given equation and the sesquilinarity we obtain the inner product of s of alpha x1 plus beta x2 comma y is equal to be h of alpha x1 plus beta x2 comma y. So now we'll apply the definition of a sesquilinarity. So this becomes equal to be h of alpha x1 comma y plus h of beta x2 comma y, which is equal to be alpha times this one, which is the inner product of sx1 comma y plus beta times the inner product of a s2 sx2 comma y. So which is equal to be, which can be written as a inner product of a alpha sx1 plus beta sx2 comma y. So we found that by the lemma of equality that this part is equal to be this part. So it means that s of alpha x1 plus beta x2 is equal to be alpha times sx1 plus beta times sx2. So prove that s is a linear. So now we prove that s is a bounded. So now the norm of h can be defined as supremum of modulus of hxy over the norm of xy where x and y is non-zero. And this can be written as is equal to be supremum of the modulus of the inner product of x comma y over the norm of x into norm of y where x and y is non-zero. And further, which is greater than equal to be supremum of a x comma sx which is non-zero into the modulus of sx inner product of a sx comma xx over the norm of ax into the norm of a sx, which is can be written as equal to be the supremum over the x non-zero, x is non-zero, of norm of a sx over the norm of ax, which is equal to be norm of as. So this proves that this s is bounded, and moreover the norm of h is greater than equal to be norm of as. Also from the given equation we noting that the norm of h is equal to be norm of as by the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. Say that the norm of h is equal to be supremum over the x and y is non-zero is equal to be the modulus of inner product of a sx comma y over the norm of ax into the norm of y, which is less than equal to be supremum of over the x and y non-zero norm of a sx into norm of a y over the norm of a x into the norm of a y, which is equal to be norm of s. So we get that the norm of ah is less than equal to bs. Here we get the norm of ah is greater than equal to bs. So from these two parts we can get that the norm of ah is equal to be norm of as. So now we prove that this s is unique. So in fact, assuming that there is a linear beta t from h1 to h2 such that for all x belongs to be h1 and y belongs to be h2, we have hxy is equal to be the inner product of a sx comma y, which is equal to be the inner product of a tx comma y. So we see that sx is equal to be tx. So for all x belongs to be h1. So hence by the equality lemma that we have already proved that, so this s is equal to be t. So we have proved that this s is a unique. So thank you. So these are the references.